estimated wait time is approximately forever.
So politically correct anymore. Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
Please continue to hold for the next available representative.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
We appreciate you waiting and waiting. What is it you're waiting for? Do you even know anymore?
These are people who work hard but no longer have a voice. I am your voice.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics, the live stream. We went vintage mode yet again, like the stream. I'm not going to show my face until we get 50 likes, at least for right now. So like the stream, let's get to 50 because the show doesn't start until we get 50 likes. But not only is this a callback stream in a way to, 2020, to an extent early 2021, especially with the hold music, which we haven't used for quite some time, despite it making into the Super Bowl commercial. Ironically enough, as so many people pointed out, okay, we hit it. We hit 70. Let's hit 100. Let's hit 100 likes before we hit 81. All right, let's hit 100. No face until 100. I think that's what it used to be, actually. 86. Keep going. Let's run up the score here really quickly. We're at 89. Come on, you guys can do it. You guys can do it. We had to change locations of this studio just so I could do this off of the PC because the Mac, the desktop audio doesn't work, so we couldn't do call-in streams for quite some time on the channel, even if we wanted to, and we hit 100. There we go. And there I am. It's not StreamYard, so, if it's a little not exactly as crisp, hopefully it's good enough for you guys if the quality's fine. We could up the bit rate if it's not, but it should be. But I'm glad to be back in this format, even if it's just not all the time, but some of the time, because we have a lot of things, and I promised to call in stream for quite some time. I said by the end of the month, and it's now the end of the month, which means that we are going to be doing it. promises made, promises kept. If you want to call in, we're going to take calls, probably not the second. We're going to get to some of the topics first, and then we'll take some calls probably in around, half hour or so. But if you want to join the website, you could sign up, redeaglepolitics.com, join the Discord. Yes, the call-in tier is 10, but for the first few streams, I think we're going to just allow everybody in the Discord in. We'll pick a select few. Just because you get in the Discord doesn't mean you're automatically guaranteed to get in the call room, because we can't get to everybody. I'm sure if you DM me, say I was waiting for X amount of time, I can prioritize you the next call-in stream, of which there will be one. And I absolutely can guarantee that. So make sure you guys like the stream. Subscribe if you haven't yet. We are going to be talking about quite a bit today. Probably more of a speed run, though. 2024 news. Where's the announcement bump? We were promised an announcement bump by the Ron DeSantis team, and I don't see it. It just is not there. They haven't released a lot of polls. But the two polls that were released, Trump has like 58%, DeSantis is down there at 20%. And then the other one, it's the same thing. Trump's at 58%. DeSantis gained, but Trump gained more. And Tim Scott gained more as well. Tim Scott gained 5. He got the highest announcement bump out of pretty much anybody. And that's very interesting to see. Not only that, Trump is ahead in the two-way poll nationally, 63-37. And like I said, a lot of these people in there, and I covered this in the last video, they're going to hurt DeSantis in the long run. But even so, a good portion of their support will still coalesce behind somebody like Donald Trump. Not all of it, but a very good portion of it, to the point where Donald Trump is going to pretty much have the nomination locked up unless something drastic happens. I'll say that. It's going to take quite a bit for that to occur. It's going to take quite a bit for Donald Trump to lose a lot of ground. And now we hear Mike Pence is jumping in the race, allegedly, next week. So you're looking at that, and it's like there's all these people in the mix. DeSantis isn't standing out from those people, other than the fact that people know that he's governor of Florida and they see the headlines. And that's pretty much where his support comes from as of right now. Donald Trump still has that rock solid 50-60% of the party behind him. And as a result, it's working out in his favor. It is benefiting him from what we have seen. And as a result, it really does seem as if down the stretch he's going to be able to keep up that momentum, because he's had a lot of things that have happened, whether you talk about the midterms or his indictments or whatever, and even some statements, which we're going to get into as well, that have not been politically advantageous and in many cases have been politically controversial for him to have. But still, it doesn't matter. He's running up the score. He's still doing well. And it's like the 2016 primary, where a lot of it just seems to bounce off of him. A lot of it isn't really affecting him in a wide capacity enough to really make that difference. And he's going out there and he's just manning the room, and he will man the room on the debate stage. And he is going to very likely once again be that nominee. They haven't learned anything. The donor class, they haven't learned anything from 2016. Who do they have out there? They have like the annoying influencer crew that's like attacking Trump from the right and from the left 24/7. But as a result, it's like they did that in 2016. You had the Cruz crew. You had the Rubio heads. You had a lot of different people that were out there. A lot of the same influencers, actually, that are propping up DeSantis right now were propping up those characters back in the day, and they fell flat on their face. And you look at somebody like DeSantis, maybe now they're trying to learn from their mistakes and put all of their resources behind one guy. He's basically that mix of Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio, so to speak. In many ways, you talk about the Florida connection, but you also talk about the fact that he has that ability to kind of on policy be seen as like the substance guy, even though Trump is arguably putting out far more substance. If you actually look at his, policy videos or what he's put out there on his website, whether it's on immigration, whether it's on trade, foreign policy, and just every other single issue. He's bringing a lot to the table now that he's never been. It's funny because we always said, we got to build on Trumpism. And then you look at Trump's policy, and what is he doing? He's building on Trumpism. He's building on his original platform from what we've seen. I mean, you look at what he said and what's going on there regarding the whole baby boom thing. We've always talked about how Viktor Orban is so legendary because he's proposed this and he's actually implemented these loans giving out to families so they will have kids to actually reverse the decline in the birth rate. We've praised that policy. A lot of the rhinos and the neocons are always the type to say, no, that's socialist, you can't do that, McGooberman, whatever they want to say. But then Donald Trump is somebody who's coming along once again as the outsider populist, thinking outside of the box, and he hasn't touted it a whole lot. It really hasn't come up. He said it at a couple of rallies. He hasn't also done a whole lot of rallies. I think he's going to Iowa pretty soon, though, which is good for him because that is the first state. But you're looking into that, and it's like, okay, well, he's bringing the policy. He's coming out of the box with these new things. And then today, I think it was, or yesterday, he announces that if he's elected president, there's going to be the America's 250th birthday party, and you're going to have like this massive parade. I think it's going to be in Iowa is where it's promised. I mean, technically you could say that's a political thing. It may be, but I mean, the Iowa State Fairgrounds are very large, and it would be a very good place to have them because it's kind of in the middle of the country. Everybody could tour. There's a large amount of space there. And what it would amount to is the fact that you have this celebration of America once again, and you see that on full display. And I think that that's very important because what is DeSantis bringing to the table? What has he talked about? He's anti-indoctrination, even though he articulates it fairly in a boring manner, and we saw that in the Twitter space. And also regarding the whole woke nonsense and woke capitalism, he's sort of opposing that in some way, rhetorically speaking. Donald Trump represents you look at Donald Trump, he was the one to lead the charge against CRT. Nobody ever gives him credit for it. It was Tucker Carlson, and then Trump saw a clip or something, and then Trump was leading the charge. And then they were like, why is he learning it from Tucker? It's like, well, why are you guys learning it from Trump? Because a lot of these people didn't say anything about it until Donald Trump came along. But we're looking at that, Trump and the CRT thing. He has spearheaded the educational thing, and there's a lot less you could do at the national level on that issue than what you can do at the state level. But beyond that point, if you look deeper into it, like the whole woke stuff, like maybe DeSantis has kind of made that his brand, even though he arguably overdoes it to the point where it's like, it doesn't matter. Trump still, regarding national issues, has spoken out against woke capitalism from time to time as well. And also, if you look into the policies, I don't know if he's had any specific policies on it, but his policy has been very substantive, and you can tell because, first of all, the DeSimps are quiet, and the people on the left are calling him evil and fascist whenever he puts something out, which kind of proves the fact that whenever he puts something out, it tends to be effective and get under their skin, which is exactly what we need regarding policy in this country. So looking into that, it seems like Trump has him arguably beat in the substance thing, and he also has him beat in the visionary category. What is the vision for our country? Because I will agree that Donald Trump in 4 years probably is not going to single-handedly drain the swamp or save this country. I mean, he's up against a lot this time around, just like he was up against a lot last time around, and because I think he's navigating it better so far this time around, you will see him go up against the swamp in a higher capacity if he actually does get in there, and as a result, he's probably still going to have his hands full. I do believe it's bouncing off. I do believe a lot of these attacks and the scandals and the nonsense, they're bouncing off. We see that in primary polling, general election polling, you name it. It doesn't matter. But when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, he's building that vision for the country. And he's somebody who goes out there and says the American dream is dead. And we need to bring it back, and we need to make America great again. We need to put America first. These are all of his slogans, and those are good things. When it comes down to DeSantis, what is it? Make America Florida, which is not something that's going to resonate with the Midwest, electorally speaking. And I defied Fauci, but not really, back in 2020, but it's going to be 2025 when he would be taking office, to the point where it's like, okay, Trump's the guy. He has the winning messaging, and he's racking up the endorsements of a lot of these solid people in Congress. And now the new cope is Trump is the establishment, because he actually has people endorsing him, even though they tend to be, for the most part, 95%, the more anti-establishment types in Congress. And then you have very few of them, or very few of those, base people in Congress that are endorsing DeSantis. And usually it's because Donald Trump endorsed their primary opponents, which, again, he probably shouldn't have at the time. And I critiqued him for it because I'm such an evil Blumf cultist who never critiques Donald Trump that I was critiquing him on it. But it is what it is. And furthermore, we're going to get to a couple of other things before we take calls. But like I said, make sure you guys join the Discord if you do want to call in. And when I say call in, keep in mind that it's probably going to be, a minute to 2 minutes per person. And I'm going to have a question for the audience. I'm going to be asking a question regarding the primary. And obviously, if you're a DeSantis head in the audience, please call in. I encourage you to call in. If you're going to send like a super chat or something critiquing me and you're a DeSantis head, just join the website, because I want to talk to other people. I'd like to have a little bit of a discussion, and probably would give the DeSantis people a little bit more time because we disagree. Maybe have like a miniature back and forth here. That's fine. But I want to get where people stand, and also why do they stand in that position? Why do people that support Donald Trump in the audience support Donald Trump? Why do the people that support Ron DeSantis oppose Trump and support DeSantis? And also maybe we could have a back and forth on that. Make sure to join. I'm not going to do a full-fledged debate. I would love to do them. I'd love to have debate streams. We get like 5 or 6 DeSimps and we put them all in there. And it's like basically the political version of the Whatever podcast, because you have like 6 very dumb people, and then you have like the guy who has the highest IQ in the room and is going to just eviscerate all of them. Maybe we could even do 6-on-1. I don't know. But that's beside the point. I'm not trying to get ahead of myself here. We're gonna look, and we're gonna see what people have to say and listen. We're gonna be respectful. We're gonna be reasonable on the live stream, but it is true in a way that there are just so many of these people, and their arguments fall flat when they're pressed on them. So that's the way it goes. And they've been acting crazy on Twitter, and I've been ratioed by several of these high-level DeSimps. They all retweet each other. They have their group chats where they, try to dox people and give them really bad nicknames, and it's just awful. But this tweet that I tweeted out, not even before when people fully understood the end result of the 2020 election, by the way, that if the Republicans were to run Nikki Haley, they would lose, and they would stand a much better shot with Ron DeSantis. And they think that this is some sort of own. And it kind of goes to show how Ron DeSantis and his annoying team of influencers, they are the ones that have made the enemies here. They're the ones that have made enemies of people by the way they've been behaving, by the way they've been acting, by DeSantis taking the establishment bait against not just Trump, but his entire movement, and try to divide the party unnecessarily for his own personal gain. And this was also tweeted out before I fully examined DeSantis's record in Congress, his record as a politician, listen to him speak as much, understand that he didn't really have that level of charisma, and understand what it truly meant to be a career politician. Like, there are so many reasons why I probably wouldn't stand by this. Obviously, DeSantis is much better than Nikki Haley. Nobody's going to be debating that. The reason why I spend more time attacking DeSantis than Haley is because of the fact that DeSantis does pose a bigger threat, even though it's a minimal threat. And Nikki Haley is just laughed at by pretty much everybody. And I even said that the litmus test for the DeSimps was Trump or Haley. A lot of them, at least the Twitter influencers, they were leaning more towards the side of Haley. And that's like very interesting. It shows where they really stand on these issues. It shows that they stand with the Republican establishment at every single turn. It shows that these people do tend to be on the establishment side more so than not. And there have been people who may have been on the anti-establishment side that have like sold their principles and soul to the guy who voted many times to cut Social Security and all this stuff. And even when it comes down to economics, because they claim, DeSantis is like more right-wing on that, so he's more conservative. He's also supported a national sales tax, which would be like a VAT tax like they have in Europe and I believe maybe even Canada. And that's not a policy that really bodes well with the base, even like the economic right-wing hawks. Like, there's so much to attack DeSantis on. It's crazy. And I didn't really understand this when I tweeted this out, by the way. But to say like I'm grifting or something because I've kind of soured on DeSantis as a potential candidate for president, that's honestly more on him, and it's on these people than it is on me. I've always preferred Trump over Ron DeSantis, even when I was debating some people who were like defending Trump for things that I wouldn't defend Trump for. You know, I was still saying, yeah, I support Trump over DeSantis, but maybe DeSantis isn't that bad. But I agree that I took some L's there because I was wrong on many fronts in terms of his electability, especially if he was running up against Donald Trump. Because if DeSantis was running and in the good graces of the base and the successor to Donald Trump, like, yeah, he could win if it's a good year. If he's going up against somebody like Kamala Harris, yeah, he could win, even if he's not that charismatic, because it'd be like a no vote. People would be voting for him against the opposition, and he could hypothetically have won in that scenario. However, do keep in mind the fact that if you're running against Donald Trump and you somehow narrowly get the nomination that you basically buy because you spend hundreds of millions of dollars, you are going to be DOA in a general, especially in places like Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Biden's going to pivot to the more populist side of things on trade, and he's going to try to gaslight some of these Union Dem Trump supporter types into voting for him. And to a certain extent, he may actually be successful depending on how he plays his cards right and depending on how the DeSantis campaign goes. I don't think he'll get through a primary, obviously, but if he hypothetically did, but he's still running his campaign the way that he is now, where he's just so incompetent, like, Biden's going to steamroll this guy. And when this was tweeted out, that's something that I think a lot of people didn't understand. And we get people all the time that even say they like both. And I mean, I like some of what he's done in Florida, but I do believe that if you just have any competent governor and state legislature that like sits down for like a day, they could pass literally every single bill that Ron DeSantis has passed through that's been solid. Like, even the bills that he's passed through that we like the whole Don't Say Gay bill. What does it do? It basically prevents schools from teaching about like sex until the 4th grade or 5th grade. And it's like, okay, so like basically the law is the normal law of the land like 10 years ago, that we have to make this guy president of the United States and divide the party because that's like how good he is. Like, no, it's not how it works. Donald Trump on the campaign trail, you talk about the whole woke stuff, even like the whole transgender stuff that he avoided for his first term. He's going out there and he's proposing very strong legislation on the campaign trail against that type of stuff. And this is really something that's telling because, you know, I've critiqued Trump for being weak on the issue for quite some time. And maybe you can say, oh, DeSantis pushed him right on that issue. But I think it's more just the GOP as a whole, and just the fact that the base has been fired up on those issues and they've seen, you know, video clips or whatever of what's going on, the same way that we see people on the left get fired up over the whole BLM stuff, except we don't, you know, doctor our footage, the term they like to use, doctor. We don't edit our footage the way they do. We don't get selectively outraged about certain things like they do. It's actually happening. That's the main difference between the two. But still, like I said, you're not a grifter because you sour on Ron DeSantis when you examine the facts. However, they get mad because I said Ron's a grifter, because he is, because people are saying, okay, we're going to throw hundreds of millions of dollars at you to divide the party and probably lose to Trump in a primary, and it's just unnecessary division. And he's taking the bait. And he's the one going on a book tour around the country. He's the one going to Iowa. People are like, oh, well, Trump's more of a grifter because of the NFTs than he's selling like baseball cards of himself for $10,000. And honestly, if you bought the NFTs and you played your cards right with the investments, you could have made like 10 times what you spent for the NFTs. But they don't want to talk about that. They don't. I mean, the people that bought them probably would just donate to Trump anyways. Like, oh, big deal. Like, he has a interesting way of donating to him where people are spending their money on like an image that probably isn't worth much, but it actually at one point after the indictments, they were worth a lot. I think they plummeted unless the articles they're sending are like selective and only talking about a select few of those NFTs, but that's beside the point. It doesn't matter. I'm not a fan of NFTs. I thought it was a little weird that Trump did that, but you know, it's not a big deal. And it's not something that says, oh, it's going to make him a grifter. It's like technically he allowed his supporters, if they played their cards right, to make a lot of money off of them. But that's the way it is. If you didn't sell them, yeah, you're pretty much SOL. But beside the point, it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. at least it's going to be worth more than, some like collector's baseball card item for $10,000 and a $10,000 donation. And then he goes to his donor meeting. And that's another thing. He goes to the donor meeting and they leak a lot of the stuff from the donor meeting because they're so incompetent. They have leakers. And then he's going in there and his people are saying, he's going to pivot on abortion. He's going to be hard to the right in the primary. And then he's going to go to the Bill Clinton safe and rare and legal position. So it's like he tries to flip-flop more than like John Kerry or Mitt Romney. And honestly, he's a career politician, not a meme factor, not inspirational, a governor that's regarded to be solid. It sounds like he's Mitt Romney with a new software update. We'll talk about the woke stuff. He'll reopen faster than some like other states will reopen, like Ohio or whatever. But beyond that point, the whole reopening thing is like South Carolina, I believe, did better. South Dakota never locked down. People will say, that's because of Noam. It's like, no, Noam is also a grifter. It's mainly because of the state legislature. But still, the party as a whole prevented South Dakota from locking down. And yeah, Florida's older. I get it. Florida has a larger population. But still, it's like they weren't number one either. It's not like, he was by and large, far and away the best governor when it came to those issues. He wasn't. He gets hyped because he has a very good PR team. And he's, like I said, he's one of the best governors technically. But that's also because of the fact that we just have so many mid-governors, more so than, DeSantis is like this visionary. Like, he's not. Face facts. Like, that's just the way it goes. And compared to some of the other people in the race, like, yeah, he's not as bad as Haley. Obviously, rather have DeSantis than Haley, rather have DeSantis than Tim Scott even, rather have DeSantis than some of these other people, not Vivek, even though he's more of a wild card and there's a lot we don't know about him, but he has proposed some interesting things. But I would probably prefer DeSantis to, a lot of those rhino, like diehard rhino types like Haley, the neocons. But when it compares to Trump, when you already have something that isn't broke, so don't fix it, and you have something that has learned from his mistakes, they don't pay attention to that. But if you've watched every speech of him, you listen to what he said, and you look at his policy changes and where he's focusing his energy on, it's more stuff that matters. But you have all these grifters that were critiquing Trump during the end of his presidency or 2021. And I guess they were in the same camp as me at the time, but I'm not a grifter unlike these people. But then Trump actually decides to come around, admit his mistakes, kick Jared out, whatever, and reform his inner circle, reform his policy positions, and stop pandering to groups that aren't going to vote for him. Now Trump's the problem. Trump is evil. He was a horrible president from the get-go, according to these people, and they're supporting Ron DeSantis despite him not aligning with them at all, even when it comes down to things like trade, immigration, economic issues even. So that's what I have to say about the whole thing. Now, I do want to get to other stuff very briefly here before we take the calls. I think we're going to be taking the calls in probably around 10, 15 minutes from now. I'm sorry, I know it's late, but we want to get to everything. We want to get to super chats as well. So we're going to speed run through this, probably a few minutes on each. Trump's going out there, and he did something that a lot of people said was a little bit of a head scratcher, and attacked his former press secretary as milquetoast Kayleigh McEnany on Truth Social, saying that she gave out the wrong poll numbers on Fox. He's up 34, not 25. Well, 25 is great. It's not 34. She knew the number was corrected upwards by the group that did the poll. The rhinos and globalists can have her. Fox should only use real stars. Again, this is probably a statement that didn't need to be made. I will say it is true that McEnany has counter-signaled Trump from time to time over the past couple of months or so. So it's not like, he's just attacking her out of nowhere. But, I mean, like, it is what it is. Like, people are acting like, it's horrible, it's over for Trump because he attacked his former press secretary. And it's like, it is a little bit of a thing where we do have bigger fish to fry. I get that. It's not something that's going to, like, gain him support per se. And that's true. But at the end of the day, it's like, I'm not going to get outraged about this. It's not going to move the needle. People have such a short memory. They don't remember the 2016 primary. Donald Trump was going out there basically calling Ted Cruz's wife ugly and saying that his dad, Ted Cruz's dad, killed JFK. And even said that like in June, like after Ted Cruz already dropped out, he reiterated it. And it's like, that's Trump. That's part of the charm of Donald Trump. He's just like somebody who's a real guy. A lot of people are upset with the political establishment in this country on both sides. And he's going out there and he is just pulling no punches, attacking everybody that he could. And obviously, like I said, we have bigger fish to fry than somebody like Kayleigh McEnany over poll numbers. But like, that's who he is. That's who Trump is. That's who he's always been. We don't hear about it because he's not in the media as much. He said a lot worse about a lot of other people that were even closer to him back in the day. But to say, oh, well, it's over for Blump. He can't win. He's past his prime now for sure because he put out like a risque post on Truth Social. It's like, where were you back in 2016? What were you doing? Like, these people, they don't really get it. And it is what it is. I understand why people may be a little off-put by it, but that's kind of like Trump's gimmick in general. And for the people that are going to be like, oh, well, we have to support Ron now because Ron doesn't do this. Ron's attacking the guy that made his career and is like running against him to divide the party. Like, that's a much bigger problem. That's what I say when I mean we have bigger fish to fry than Kayleigh McEnany. That is probably the big fish right now. And it's not just Ron DeSantis. He may have good intentions as an individual, but he is taking the bait of the people that have the worst intentions for you and for the party and for the country. And that's what I'm fighting back against. It's not that we're in the personality cult of Donald Trump or whatever. I like Vivek, actually, who is running against Donald Trump and has critiqued Donald Trump. I like some of what he has to say. I don't think he has bad intentions. However, I prefer Trump to him for obvious reasons, partially because of the fact that Trump has a shot to win, and why divide the party any further? And Vivek probably will endorse Trump over the others. But when it comes down to it, it's like, no, they always try to make it a you're for us or against because they're the ones with the cultish mentality. They obviously gloss over it at every opportunity, but they're the projectors, 100%. They're the grifters. They're the opportunists. They're the one taking the money. I've taken $0 from the Trump campaign. I will take any money they want to throw at me, although I'm not changing my beliefs on anything. I will say that. But, I'm honest about it. But I do this for free for the most part when it comes down to my commentary on Twitter, obviously YouTube ad revenue, etc. But even then, we've lost support from time to time on this channel because I refuse to cave. I refuse to double down. We've lost a couple thousand subs, and I'm fine with that. It is what it is. It doesn't bother me because I'm standing up for what's right, and they'll be back. They will be back. They'll be back, but they're not sitting at the front of the bus. I can tell you that much. They're not going to be the ones gatekeeping. They're not going to be the ones dictating policy like they were during Trump's administration. So that's what I'll say. Now, when it comes down to the House, because we see this as well, the debt ceiling, we're going to get to this, and then we're going to get to super chats. We're going to take calls. So they passed the bill, and it's probably going to go to the Senate, probably is going to get signed. I will say this about it. It's weak. Now, I'm glad we're not defaulting, so to speak, for obvious reasons. However, we may still default at some point, for one. And for two, all of the left-wing pork in this bill that McCarthy could not gut, could not get rid of, it was a massive cave job 100% of the way, which is massively disappointing. And while it is true that McCarthy has done a better job as Speaker than I think a lot of people would have initially anticipated, including myself, he still is part of the swamp. He's still somebody that caves from time to time. And he doesn't really have a whole lot of people to keep him in check. He has more people keeping him in check now because of the rules package they've signed. But however, when it comes down to this, it's like you couldn't have done a better job. There's so much left-wing pork in this thing that like you possibly could not have thought it was a good idea to not try and get a better deal. Oh, but the deadline, like, still doesn't matter. You could work overtime. You'd have a much higher approval rating if you actually did that and got a bill that was a lot fairer to the people that voted for the Republicans and put Republicans and McCarthy in charge of the House in 2022. Because a lot of people don't remember the fact that we did actually win the House back in 2022, despite it being a little bit underwhelming compared to what a lot of people really expected on both sides, by the way. But just taking L after L again and again, This is why a lot of people don't vote Republican unless Donald Trump is on the ticket. And they get all the wrong takeaways from the midterms, but look at the map. Oh, Tudor Dixon lost because she was too pro-Trump, they'll say. Like, what? How? It doesn't make any sense. She's more of a DeVosite, first of all. Second of all, yeah, she had his primary endorsement, but would have won the primary anyways. Third of all, she performed like the best compared to 2020 in like Oakland County and Kent County, and like the worst in all of those rural areas with all the ancestral Dems and all the disaffected right-wing independents who didn't turn out in 2022, but turned out in both 2016 and 2020. So what can I say? It is what it is, guys. But that's pretty much it for these two. I want to get to the super chats real quick. I can't put them on screen because we're not on StreamYard, but nevertheless, VW Bear says someone needs to do a Will Smith on McCarthy. We'll disavow any form of any calls to such, but people are angry, I will say that, and they have every right to be angry. It's Cool Guy Rye says, I fear Blake Masters will endorse DeSantis. I doubt it, honestly. I mean, Trump endorsed him. And I mean, he was going to probably win the primary anyways, but he still will likely return the favor. And Blake Masters is somebody that's not one of those like guys that will just cave into the establishment. The only way he's going to do that is like if he has like a deal behind the scenes, which I don't know if this is true. Obviously, I haven't heard anything. I'm just speculating. Like if they cut a deal to say, oh, we'll fund you if you endorse DeSantis in the primary. It's like at that point, I'd be like, fine. You know, if he actually runs and is the front runner, is the nominee, yeah, I mean, do what you got to do. But I'm pretty sure he will endorse Trump, or maybe he just won't endorse at all. I mean, if you don't endorse at all, it is what it is. You don't have to be somebody who talks about 2024 in the primary 24/7, but it's obvious that Donald Trump, as of right now, the chance of him to be the nominee is astronomically high. It would take a massive disaster for him to just drop off the face of the earth, because that's what he would have to do. And even if DeSantis wins the primary, which is not going to happen, but let's say it does, it's going to be by the skin of his teeth, and he's going to have a ridiculously divided party on his hands, and it's just not going to end well. It's not going to end well for anybody. Nick Ace's thoughts on Mike Pence running. He can run as long as he wants, but he's not going to win. He'll just take votes away from Ron DeSantis. Joshua Zakel says thoughts on Trump attacking Kayleigh. We already covered it. I don't think it's the biggest, most important thing to do, but like for people saying, oh, Blumph is finished now because of it, it's like, no. Like that's who Trump is. That's who Trump always has been, and he'll ruffle feathers. And the whole like Connie T thing is new. Or whatever, like the election side of Twitter and like the new wave of like analysts that are like obsessed with politics and everything anybody does 24/7, which they wouldn't really exist if it wasn't for me, by the way. Let's make that clear, which I take full responsibility. It wasn't really my fault, but you know, mainly because we had to deal with these people and they definitely, a lot of them entered the election sphere because of this channel and other channels as well. And they decided to engage in commentary. Some of them defected to the dark side, the neocon side of things, the electabro side of things, and we had the electability wars, and we're still fighting them, by the way. But it's like these people, a lot of them were not around back in the day to understand what Trump was like and what politics were like back then. And obviously, I was not nearly as active in politics. Obviously didn't have my channel until 2019, but I was still like relatively active politically for somebody back in the day. I wish I was more active in like the meme war and stuff on Twitter and had an account, but I was like 16, 17 years old at the time. So it's like whatever. Olivia Williams says, do you see what Lombardo did? Yeah, that was unfortunate. He did not have to do that. There was no reason for him to do so. Just a complete cave job on the issue of abortion. He didn't have to do it. It was a disaster. I know Nevada's Nevada, but still, you didn't have to sign that bill. Could have just let it like die in committee or not have it, or if it went to his desk, obviously, but he could have just had it just sit there and do nothing about it if he really just wanted to take do the politically charged route. But the second part of the super chat, DeSantis has odds. Well, I wouldn't use that term, but he definitely is awkward. I will say he's awkward, and that's not something you need when you're relating to voters. If you're gonna, kick out somebody like Trump, you got to be awesome, man. You got to be just amazing. You got to be charismatic. You got to be somebody who like not only just gets DeSantis's policy wins, but like gets a ridiculous amount more. He's going to have to be like Huey Long of Florida, which he's not. He's a governor, serviceable, yes. Not a horrible governor, but I will say that there's just such a low bar for that. And in an ideal world, he would probably be a below average Republican governor because there's so much more that can be done and needs to be done. And obviously the state legislature is an issue, but he has super majorities that are pretty much in line with him on everything. So why doesn't he exactly do more? I don't know. But he doesn't exactly have what it takes charismatically to get to the next step. Also, Olivia Williams says, is McCarthy getting ousted? And if so, who is next? Probably not. Tucson Paleocon for 20 says, can't wait to see the first primary debate. We may get to see Trump make a grown man cry on national TV. Well, Trump will mog DeSantis. And maybe for a minute there, I was like, okay, does he have what it takes in the debate stage to do what he did in 2016? And after seeing that town hall, there is no question that Donald Trump will man that field because DeSantis is robotic. He's not off the cuff. He's missed a note card over there, reading off the note cards 24/7. Trump is somebody that still's got it. I mean, the town hall was not scripted at all, and he did a phenomenal job going in the lion's den against CNN. Ron DeSantis, like Caitlin Collins, was probably going to be a more like insufferable individual to deal with in terms of am I going to be able to like completely own this person than DeSantis, because DeSantis is just so robotic. Like, what's he going to say? You said Florida's worse than New York on COVID. Are you kidding me? And like the donor crowd's just going to erupt and cheer. And it's like, I don't even think that was a correct statement for Trump to make, and Trump himself has said otherwise in the past, but it's like, you're going to attack your opponent on literally everything. And Ron DeSantis has done the same exact thing on the First Step Act. And you might say, well, he wasn't in Congress to vote for the final version, but he passed similar criminal justice reform measures in Florida that would make George Soros smile. Like, to say that he wouldn't have gone along with the party line and support that in Congress when all he did was go along with the party line, you have to be absolutely just kidding me to believe that he would have like been that maverick and voted otherwise. And if we saw that from his tenure in Congress, I'd feel a lot better than with him as the nominee than I do feel right now. So what can I say? Olivia Williams says, if Trump somehow loses in 24, he should run in 20. I disagree. And I don't think that's a good mentality to have. No, we're not going to talk about 2028. And if Trump loses in 2024, he's not going to run in 2028. And if he does, probably he's not going to get enough primary support because of the fact that you have a lot of other people that are solid, that are rising, that are actually like solid, not like career politician types that will likely be able to jump in the ring, run against him, but not like be a part of the same insufferable crew and probably win. So I don't think Trump would do that to himself whatsoever. But I don't think he's going to lose. I think he'll win the primary, and honestly, I do believe he'll win the general. I really do. I think that you have a lot of work to do with the apparatus of the GOP, but I think his people this time around have that drive to actually do it. And you're seeing changes on the ground even regarding their strategy and what they want to do. So David Zentaris says a default will be an improvement. McCarthy basically green-lighted IRS expansion, so the weaponization will continue. Well, yeah, there's so many things in this bill that are left-wing pork that don't need to be in there. FM 32047, message retracted. Bung Gam says if McCain is a 1 and Trump is a 10, where's Rob? Well, he's being supported by a lot of the ones. Yet he's claiming to be better than the 10. I don't even know if Trump somehow you could say, oh, he's like going to be perfect or whatever. But as a candidate, as somebody who is a visionary, Trump is probably the best we've seen in our lifetimes, hands down. DeSantis is not that. He's probably somewhere, like I said, Romney with a new software update. He's not as bad. He talks about the woke stuff. He has like this get things done caricature that he's got brewing in conservative media, the same media that was like pro Cruz and Rubio in the 2016 primary. So, I mean, he'd probably be like, I think mid-Ron is a good thing. Like 5. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, oh, he's not McCain, he's not Romney. It's like, well, at the same time, he's trying to run to destroy the movement that has eviscerated all of those political dynasties. Even if you want to say, oh, but Mitt Romney, like Romney's going to probably be primaried out at this point. And yeah, Trump should not have endorsed him in the primary or whatever. That was a bad move. I critique him for it then. I critique him for it today. But still, it's like he has little to no influence for the most part in the party. He'd never be able to successfully mount a presidential run ever again because Trump basically destroyed him, got him out of the picture. Same thing goes with any of the Cheney dynasty, any of the Bushes. George P. Bush is done. They're trying to resurrect his career because Ken Paxton made fun of a drunk moron on the state house floor in Texas. It's a mess, folks. It's a mess. All right, speed run the last three, and then we're pausing the super chats, going to calls, because I know it's been a while, and we have a lot of people waiting. We're going to take calls. We'll take some calls, obviously. We'll see if we get to everybody. But make sure you guys, no mention of a certain election 3 years ago, stuff about that. No mention of any, good optics. Just maintain good optics, maintain TOS. We're not trying to get our lights turned out here. And maybe we'll do a call-in stream on Rumble or something in the future where we can talk about whatever. I'd be down because Rumble's doing great right now, but currently we're not on Rumble, we're on YouTube. So just be careful for those that are in the call. MH says, I love Trump and DeSantis. Wish he did not believe in the exceptions to abortion. I also wish that Trump would not attack DeSantis about Disney. Well, first thing, I understand the whole Disney debacle, Trump optically. Like, I personally think you can attack him on it. Partially because Disney is not anymore woke, or you could say like you're not winning the fight. I think that's a decent line of attack. But when it comes down to the exceptions thing, it's like if he didn't say that, he would have no chance. Like, face facts, especially in this era. Trump is going to avoid the issue, but at the same time, he's playing it directly to the electorate in a way that's going to be palatable to independents. DeSantis doing the flip-flop thing in the primary to the general. You talk about like independents, like the actual remaining independents who care about these issues. Oh, the suburbs. Yeah, DeSantis is probably not going to do that well in the suburbs, even when it comes down to the COVID stuff. Like, if he goes too much into the whole, like, leans too much into the anti-jab stuff, which, again, I agree with, and I've critiqued Trump for shilling it. I've critiqued DeSantis for shilling it and being a hypocrite on, but if he leans too much into that in the primary campaign trail for, like, political points or whatever, like, that could honestly bite him in the rear end in the general and like independents, because he's not getting the Trump base to turn out. So he actually is somebody that's going to have to get independents on his side or whatever's left. And there's not going to be enough math for DeSantis to really win in that reality. And they're just in for a reality check. Like, what's the pathway electorally for Ron DeSantis as we see it right now? Because he's not taking Wisconsin after a divisive primary with Trump. I'm not even going to say Trump's guaranteed victory in a general. I think far from it, actually. He's going to have a lot of things to fight up against. I still think he can win. I think it's 50-50, maybe even higher than that. I think that he probably does, coin flip, he takes it. But I will say, like, DeSantis in the suburbs nationally, binary choice, him and Biden, he's not gonna take nearly as many voters away from the Dems as people think. It's ironic. They care more about courting the non-existent Biden-DeSantis voter more so than they care about, like, keeping the Obama-Trump coalition in check, which really is something. Like, oh, if you're an Obama supporter but you back Trump, now you're a rhino and you're a grifter. But if you're a Romney-Biden voter, oh, we love you, we want you back. Like, give me a break. FM32047 says, do you think MCENANY will move to Team Meatball? I don't know. It is what it is. I mean, she already has been critical of Trump, which is why it wasn't like unprovoked out of nowhere. But like I said, it's not going to move the needle. Yes, we have bigger fish to fry. No, I don't care. Same thing goes with but Trump said this about Cuomo. Who knows what's going to happen on that front? You probably don't want the Cuomo endorsement, but I mean, somebody that's like bridging the gap. We're talking about, we need to relate to the moderates, the independents. But if Trump's like going to be friendly with some like Democrat politician, that's a problem. Even though back in 2016, he was to try and court more support to that side. So I don't know. Dollar for dollar says, would it be easier for Trump to run against RFK Jr.? Probably, because the establishment would run like a third party or something. Colin Shaw, Indie Games. Last super chat says, appreciate your insight. What do you expect from the MSM landscape over the next 18 months with Tucker neutered and the anti-Trump powers consolidating? What can we do to win? Well, that's why we have alt media. You have YouTube, you have Rumble, you have all these other places where even like the mainline tech platforms where you still have a lot of, conservative, authentic conservative voices still there compared to the mainstream media, which less people every single day end up watching. So we are winning the fight, especially with Twitter. You're going to see a Twitter landscape more like 2016 than 2020. And history is indeed repeating itself. It is. I mean, it's not 2016. Your heads are stuck in 2016. No, I've seen everything that's happened over the past 7 years, and I can tell you that this Trump we're seeing is not the Trump from 2020. You don't want to know why? Because I was critical of Trump more so than not, in the aftermath of 2020 regarding campaign messaging. And now I've been praising him because he's been doing a good job, because he's changed, but I've been called the grifter who switched up. I never switched up on anybody. They're the ones that are sitting up there and grifting by joining themselves to this $300 million plus sinking ship in real time. So, live callers. Who do we bring in first? It has been a very long time. Let's see. I think we're gonna bring in. I think we should bring in SoCal Populist first. I think we will bring in SoCal. He's been a moderator in the live chat. He's been waiting. He's been somebody that I've noticed has flip-flopped a little bit here and there between Trump and DeSantis. So I think he'd be a really good person to actually bring on to add to this discussion. SoCal, can you hear me? And if you can, make sure to turn the stream off when you're in the call. And that goes for everybody. But can you hear me, SoCal? Are you there? You're muted. But we're waiting for this guy to unmute. And then if he's not going to pick up, we can go to the next guy for sure. Oh, there he is. How's it going, buddy? Oh, he's muted again. Oh, there he is. Oh, can't hear him. He's not talking. Are you there? Okay. It's not working. Okay, we'll go to the next person. We're going to go to I think we'll go to Magnanimous, actually. I think we're going to go to Magnanimous. This is a guy who Trump has retruthed about some of the DeSantis stuff, if I'm not mistaken. But Magnanimous, can you hear me? Okay, apparently not.
Oh, yes, I can definitely hear you.
Oh, you can hear me? Okay, we finally have a caller on the live stream. Thank you for being the first caller to actually call in and have it work in about a good 3 years or so. It's great to have you. So I'm asking this question to pretty much everybody tonight. Who do you support in 2024 between Trump and DeSantis? And what is your main reason for supporting Trump instead of DeSantis? I believe in your case, or for the inverse, if we have anybody else in chat, DeSantis over Trump. But I'll let you have the floor for a second and kind of explain for a little bit or so.
Well, my position is very clear on this. I've always been a huge Trump supporter. I will always support President Trump, at least until 2024, because I believe that he was screwed in his first term, and he did a lot of good things for the country as well. DeSantis has been a solid governor. I'm not going to lie, but a lot of the people that are backing him are not the people that you want in your team, and also many of the people that are currently backing DeSantis were originally never Trumpers back in the 2016 election and the 2015 primary as well. So but I'm always Trump, and also one of the reasons why I choose President Trump over Ron DeSantis is that the difference between Trump supporters and the DeSantis supporters is that Trump himself kind of symbolizes the utmost outrage towards the Washington Uniparty, the globalist acts. And we people who support Trump don't trust the system anymore. People who support Ron DeSantis tend to still are they're still deluded into believing that our system is completely has the utmost integrity. So from that perspective, I think supporting Trump, who is definitely more considered as a threat to the establishment, to the political establishment. Because if you go back to the 2015 and 2016, Trump didn't brand himself as a Republican nominee. He was there. He said F the Republicans, F the Democrats. I will fix this problem. that's how that's how he basically like
Yeah.
branded him as
And
a new political persona. So yeah, I will
yeah.
always support Trump over DeSantis.
Well, I agree with pretty much everything you said there. Actually, quite all of it, actually. And it is true, because you are getting a couple bills signed as governor does not mean you're going to be an effective national leader, where it's a different ball game. There's different rules, essentially, and there are
Absolutely.
different issues. And on top of that, Trump is that guy who is the larger than life figure, because we're talking about somebody who can bring a coalition together and is like the electable type, because they say electability. That's their argument for DeSantis, even though it's funny because a lot of the polls we've seen in the primary show that Trump is viewed as the more electable type, not only just in the primary, but for all voters as a whole. And it's like, you have to be able to build a coalition, and it's not even just right versus left at a certain point. It is the disaffectedness within the system. You have a system that's broken. You have both political parties with very broken elements to it. They don't represent the interests of not just the base, but the American people as a whole. And you're going to have somebody that's going to circumvent that, the uniparty. And I think that's when you have somebody like Donald Trump. He went up there 2016. He did it. He's seeing it again. And even if he had some, establishmentarian tendencies more so than not in 2020, it first of all didn't pay him any electoral dividends. But beyond that point, he seems to be, looking back to 2016, because now you have the opposition within the own party, and it's for all the wrong reasons. So thank you for calling in. It's first time in 3 years we've done a call-in stream, but we are going to move on. But thank you for coming on, magnanimous.
No problem at all. Thank you, Warren.
Okay. All right, who are we going to bring in next is the real question. We have several people. SoCal, his mic is working now, so we'll probably bring in SoCal. If you guys still want to send any super chats, we'll read them in between the calls. Lifo Foley says, what is better, the rural South or the rural Midwest? Well, they're two different places. The rural South is more interesting. You have, you have your even like the Democrat areas in the rural South, the with the racial divide and everything, and just kind of is a different aesthetic going on, different culture. The rural Midwest is sort of like still has the Midwestern vibe. There's definitely more of like an emphasis on I guess you would say like the whole like wilderness aspect, and the South honestly is just more like there's more farming there, I guess. I'd say politically speaking, the rural South, yes, if they are, these white areas in the rural South are going to be like 90% Republican. The rural Midwest, there's still a lot of work to do there. But overall, I would have to say that, I don't know if I'd say which is better, but I have to pick the Midwest because of the fact that I'm from the Midwest as of right now. So that's, well, I don't live there now. I live in the South, but pretty much what it comes down to is, yeah, I'm from the Midwest, and there's more ties that I have to the Midwest than the rural South. And when I've lived in the Southwest, I've tend to stay in the urban areas. So that's pretty much what it comes down to. So let's see here. Let's see what we can dial up here. Let's see. We have okay. Give me a second. We gotta deal with something here. Okay, guys, we're back. I'm still here. Had a little bit of a volume concern, but nevertheless, we're back. And part of it is just the new studio, or the new makeshift studio, because I can't really take calls with the Mac. So we're going to go directly to SoCal. We're going to pick up where we left off. So SoCal, are you there this time? Apparently not. Oh, no, he's muted. SoCal, you can unmute.
Hey, what's up?
Okay, he's back. So you're somebody that, if I'm not mistaken, from what I've seen, you flip-flopped a little bit here and there between Trump and DeSantis. Why do you, or which side are you on, and why do you support them for 2024 to be the Republican nominee?
Yeah, so I'm currently Trump, and I think the main thing that made me make that change is when Trump really started to surge in the polls. And at that point, I just saw DeSantis as just somebody who's dividing the party. Additionally, I think Trump's a lot better on all the issues, and I think DeSantis is going to pivot too far to the right on social issues to win.
So you actually believe that DeSantis is going to pivot to the right, and that's going to be a problem on things like, from what I understand, probably... from what I can tell, what you're saying, probably something like, the issue of abortion or something else. And then you believe that in the general, he's going to pivot the opposite way, in a way that's probably going to make him look disingenuous. It's not going to help him to pivot back. It's going to make him look like a flip-flopper, because we saw a lot of pivoting happen in the primaries or with 2022. And it didn't really bode well for really anybody who tried to pivot a whole lot, whether what side they were on. So this is true, but I'll let you have the floor and explain a little bit further.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, especially you think about like Blake Masters with his pivot on abortion. I just don't think DeSantis's pivot would work. And with his economics, I don't think he's built for the Rust Belt. I don't really think he has a great economic platform. He hasn't outlined a foreign policy, which is very important as well. I just think overall he's Trump is the more electable choice at this point, and he's winning by so much that I don't get the point of supporting DeSantis.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I've said this quite some time, and there's just no reason for it, because A, he's probably going to lose. B, his campaign is being very poorly run, to the point where if he's running his primary campaign like this, even if he spends all that money just to get 10% more than he's getting right now, it's just useless, because you're throwing the money down the drain. They're spending their time, their money, their energy, their resources on ridiculous nonsense. And that's all the Republican establishment ever has done. And it's kind of pointless. If the whole party's still unified behind Trump, he's still carrying that torch, and he's somebody who wants to take it directly to the next level, per se, and run in 2024, I don't see a reason for Ron DeSantis to enter this race, because it's only going to end his career, and he's going to fall out in favor with a lot of people that may like him as a governor, or still might like him in the future as a presidential candidate. So that's kind of my take on it, and I think you agree 100%. But thank you for giving your input. I do appreciate you coming on, the second caller we've had in 3 years. So
yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So, all right. Let's see what we got here. Let's switch things up a little bit. Let's go to Mid-Missouri Conservative. Mid-Missouri Conservative, you are currently on the air. How's it going? Okay, he's still muted. This is going to be a recurring problem.
Hi.
Can you turn the volume down for me a little bit on the stream? I can't. It's going to be too much interference.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you. Just make sure you can turn the volume off while you're currently on the call. It'd be great. That goes for everyone that calls in, by the way.
Okay.
So basically, I'm asking everybody this question. I'm sure we're probably going to get more responses that are going to say Trump to this question, but also what's the reasoning? Who do you support for 2024 between Trump and DeSantis, and why do you support DeSantis over, or Trump over DeSantis, or DeSantis over Trump?
In 2024, I support Donald John Trump for president because I think he's more electable. He's better on the issues, particularly foreign policy, trade, economics.
And you say more electable because that's something that a lot of people in the DeSantis camp are saying the only reason, or even like the final reason, because once you debate them on policy, you beat them on the policy debate, they say, well, Trump can't win. He just energizes too many people against him and all this other stuff and all these other basically quasi-debunked talking points at this point. But what's your rationale for why Trump is more electable? Because I'd like to get other people's take on this, because I've given mine. I'd like to see what you have to say on this.
And it comes down to the Rust Belt, particularly Wisconsin. And, trade protectionism is a big thing in Wisconsin, which Ron DeSantis does not have that record of. And, well, Trump has ran on that. And that's one of the main reasons he flipped Wisconsin for the first time since Reagan beat Mondale in '84 in that state. You need to win at least Wisconsin.
It's true.
To get to 270, because Georgia, Nevada, Arizona are not enough.
In Pennsylvania, if he's not getting Wisconsin, he's not getting Pennsylvania either. This is kind of something that a lot of people just don't seem to get. And I agree 100%. And for people that'll say trade's not an issue like it was in 2016, well, whatever's the main issue is what they make an issue. And you can bet every dollar you have that Biden is going to try and gaslight a lot of these like independent, disaffected, either just Democrats, independents, whatever, but that were a part of the IRL, maybe not online, but IRL Trump base that cared about these issues. He's going to wedge every single one of those issues against Ron DeSantis, and he's going to try to court back some of those voters. Maybe he's not like sentient to that fact, but he's definitely he's gonna be fed the talking points. His campaign's gonna try to do that. And honestly, I think that they're probably gonna be successful, which is why he's not taking Wisconsin. He's definitely not taking Michigan, Pennsylvania, you name it. And even states like Arizona and Georgia, where traditionally, DeSantis type of Republican would do better than like a Trump type of Republican. I think even in those places, he is not guaranteed either one of those states either, especially if you have that divided primary, because even so, the Trump base is still key in both states. You saw that in the Georgia runoffs. A lot of them stayed home. And even in Arizona, like we didn't get to see the inverse, but if you had a lot of the other nominees win the divisive primaries, probably wouldn't have ended so well for them either. But thanks for calling in, by the way. We're going to move on to, let's see, take a few more calls here. Give me 1 second. Again, this one I'll be a shorter this time, but got to make sure we close the perimeter here. Okay, we're back. It's called me do a little bit of animal control. So let's check the super chats real quick. Let's see what we got here. Any new super chats? I believe we have a couple. George S. says, what's your take on Michigan 2024? Is there no chance Trump, if nominee or any Republican can get the votes there? I'm hearing Trump GOP is already planning ballot harvesting in places like Arizona. Well, I think that you would say that there would be a chance hypothetically because Trump is this larger-than-life political figure that can transcend weak state parties and things like that to inspire turnout, get all the free media he needs, and then have his own, team out there on the ground. My problem with Michigan compared to other states is the fact that the state party is just that incompetent to the point where it will be a severe liability, and also the fact is what's Trump's ceiling there percentage-wise as of right now? I don't know. He won it with 47% of the vote in 2016. 2020 didn't get much higher than that. So it's kind of diet Minnesota at this point. I'm not going to say it was like an Indiana level fluke in 2016, but it kind of was like North Carolina level fluke regarding the 2008 election comparison. Should be close compared to Minnesota or even like New Hampshire, but I'm not confident that Donald Trump is going to be the favorite in Michigan or whatever. Also, shout out to Nick H for the one there. So I think that's it for Super Chats, if I'm not mistaken. We can go to the calls again, take a few more. We've been going for over an hour. Let's see what we got here. Let's see. Nikolai helped me with the testing to make sure we could hear people in the Discord. So I think it's only fair that we bring in Nikolai. Nikolai, you are currently on the air. How's it going?
It's going great. It's going great.
So I've been asking people this question, as I'm sure you guys know. Who do you support in the primary? And what exactly is your rationale for supporting that specific candidate? Is it electability? Is it certain policy? Like what's going on? Trump or DeSantis? Hit me with it.
Yeah, so I'm definitely Team Trump. I've actually got a top 3 reasons. It's kind of a mix, but it's actually a lot about electability here as well. So, I have 3 main points. My first point is that DeSantis entered. Even if DeSantis was actually better on every single policy than Trump, even if he was like the 10 out of 10 perfect candidate, he's still splitting the party. You still have way too many people who know Trump's name who are only going to go to the polls to vote for Trump. And if it ain't Trump, they're not going to show up. And so that's one huge thing that I find. Thing number 2 is similar to that, but this actually looks at the 2012 election because this is actually kind of interesting. Mitt Romney won many moderates in 2012, and this is something that I'm sure a lot of the DeSantis fans will cite. However, I think that the reason
He
that
lost.
right, they did lose. They did lose.
They lost.
And in 2012, the Republicans actually did better than in 2008. And part of that, I think the biggest part was that Obama's popularity had gone down. It wasn't necessarily that people liked Mitt Romney more. Yes, and because Biden's kind of following that same path, except for to probably a more extreme state than Obama did, he's gonna lose a similar percentage of the vote. And when you look at the swing states in terms of how they've historically been voting from 2008 until today, the trends are pointing to Trump winning every swing state. I elaborated a little bit earlier today on your Discord and maybe yesterday as well, but it really does look like Trump has a huge edge just in terms of Biden doing poorly, and you don't even need a moderate candidate or a more moderate candidate than Trump, such as DeSantis, to try to get those moderate voters because they're going to vote Republican anyways.
Yes, and you also have to look at turnout as a whole. Like Romney won independents, but he got shellacked in all the swing states necessary to win, and he just didn't fail. He failed to turn out a lot of Republican voters or voters who called themselves Republicans or those even disaffected independents, whatever. Trump lost independents in 2020 by 10 to 15 points, but still came 43,000 votes across 3 states of flipping the states necessary to win the White House for another 4 years. So It's not always about independence. It's about a wide variety of things and that we know, but also it's not going to necessarily be one or the other. And also when it comes to independents, you turn out, there's also independents that are right-leaning that didn't show up for the midterms, and they'll say, well, we bombed with independents. That's even like in their autopsy report. It's what the electabros, DeSantis people, whatever you want to call them, say. And it's like, technically we did bomb with independents, but our disaffected independents didn't turn out. They don't want to look at the map to deduce that or to see what actually went down, and they're going to keep losing. And it's like they just don't want to learn from their mistakes, and it's quite sad to see. But either way, they're not going to get their way in the primary, so I don't think we're going to ever really know what a DeSantis-Biden map would actually look like.
Exactly.
But, you are right. I agree when it comes to electability. I think that is a large reason why I support Trump as well. But so many people just don't seem to get that, and they think it only goes one way, when I think the script on the electability stuff is being flipped in real time. And also, you can't really use midterms or these off-year elections to predict the presidential election. If you did that, Georgia can't go blue in 2020 because, Stacey Abrams was the star candidate. She couldn't flip it. So a neoliberal candidate like Biden, who's similar, is not capable of winning a state like Georgia. But even then, trends carried him. And we saw that there because national elections are different than statewide elections. But thank you for calling in, by the way. We do have a couple others to get to, but I appreciate your input and adding to the conversation.
Yep, my pleasure.
All right, see ya. So it's true. It's true. And this is something that we haven't really anticipated to see, but a lot of people that are supporting Trump, because I knew we get a lot of people, possibly every person tonight's going to say Trump. This is mainly a pro-Trump channel. We know that people that likely are getting to be in the Discord, not everyone is a pro. We have some DeSantis people in the Discord. I don't see any in the call. But usually the people in my channel or on my website, whatever, Discord, they're pro-Trump people. But we don't usually hear arguments when people talk about Trump for electability, but we've heard several people tonight bring that up as well, flipping the script on electability. That's something the DeSantis campaign is not going to be able to handle well either, and it's true because it doesn't matter how moderate you are, what your policies are. They could be the best policies everybody agrees with, but if you can't even run a Twitter space properly, and that's your campaign launch, how on earth are you going to go out there and defeat Joe Biden, his massive turnout machine? There's just no way. There is no way that these people are going to be able to effectively do that. Jacob Meismer says John Scott made interim AG by Abbott. Thoughts? Don't know anything about him. Don't know anything about him. Do they even need an interim GM? Or not GM, AG? Paxton, they haven't impeached or removed Paxton yet, have they? From what I could tell. Let's see. He's awaiting trial. He is impeached, but I guess he has to step down until he actually gets acquitted. From what I can tell, he's been suspended. They've suspended him. Disaster. All around disaster. The Lego Man says, big surprise, the neocon group Americans for Prosperity is going to endorse DeSantis. Do you think that Koch brother money will tilt anything? Well, they tried to infiltrate the Arizona gubernatorial primary, and they failed. Now, they also damaged Kari Lake's chances in the general because they spent all that money trying to essentially make Lake seem unpalatable. She was not losing the nomination. They had to spend like $11 million down the stretch for their god-awful, unpalatable candidate, and in turn, Lake lost support. They tried to say, she's a fake conservative, but she's also too far right to win and crazy and all this stuff, and they failed. But in the general, that definitely hurt Lake and held Lake back, regardless of whatever you can say took place in the end of the day. But they decided to divide the party and spend money on ridiculous bullshit because there's no other way to put it out. Excuse the language, but it's true. The Republican establishment sends so much money on ridiculous nonsense, and look what happens. Literally, God says Biden's losing the black support. That's going to play a huge factor in 24. I don't think he's going to lose a meaningful amount. But, I mean, all of his losses in support add up. He's probably going to lose some young black men to Trump. But, that's like, what, 5%? And that's without Trump pandering, too. Trump doing the whole platinum plan, all this stuff. He got 1% more of the black vote. Like, if he just focused on issues that matter to the American public like he did in 2016, yeah, he's probably going to get even higher share based off of that fact alone. So there's no need to waste time on it. Same thing goes with like the suburban women thing. Oh, we're going to pander to suburban women. They're still not voting for you. Like, they view Biden favorably among college-educated white women. They have a favorable view of Joe Biden. Do you possibly think that that's going to be like a demographic that's going to say, oh, well, I love Biden now, even if I may have voted for Romney, but like now I want to vote for Ron DeSantis out of nowhere? Like, no, that's not going to happen. Trends are real. You have to get the turnout necessary. You have to target the base that that will turn out in order to win the turnout battle, but they don't want to do that. They don't. It's sad, but it is what it is. Okay, let's see. Who else have we not dragged in yet? Let's see. The real 1976 national champions. We're going to drag him in. Who knows? The Discord basic Avi. We're going to deal with a troll or not, but we'll see. We'll take our chances. Are you there? Can you hear me? The real 1976. You there?
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. How's it going?
It's going good. Thanks for having me on.
So the question I'm asking everyone, as I'm sure you know, who do you support, but also why do you support that person regarding Trump or DeSantis for 2024? And like, what's the main reasoning here? Because we've covered a lot of bases on the channel over the past few months or so. But are you driven by a certain policy, certain vision for the country, electability? What's driving your support for which candidate?
So I am for Donald Trump 1,000%. And here's why. Donald Trump is the only person that I believe that can win this primary and the general election. After seeing DeSantis' speeches, he is extremely boring and dull. I'm sorry if I offended anyone there, but I have to get to the truth.
All right.
DeSantis does not have a chance to anything, especially foreign policy. Trump's foreign policy is the best we've ever seen. Right now, we have problems in Europe that is really bad. And the only way that I see this playing out, and I'm not even saying Trump could fix this, but I think he's the best shot we have to fix what's going on in Europe right now.
Yeah, and on top of that, like, I just as a question to you personally, did you ever, like, were you considering DeSantis and like you just feel like off put by him, or were you ever a DeSantis 2024 supporter, or like what's the deal there?
I was never a DeSantis 2024 supporter because of the establishment backing him with the Bushes, who I despise.
Yeah, and Jeb Bush, I don't know about the Georges, or the George, I guess now, but yeah. Jeb Bush has endorsed him for president already, and we obviously saw how Jeb's campaign turned out. I think you're seeing a similar thing here, because they spent, for those who don't know, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people do, they spent hundreds of millions of dollars propping up Jeb, and he collapsed in real time. And you're kind of seeing that to an extent with DeSantis, where they're spending a ridiculous amount of money on him. But like you said, when he speaks, he's not palatable. He's awkward. He's not charismatic. He doesn't really like have the X factor. And you need that, even if you're not like charismatic, because people will say, well, Biden's not charismatic, but like the guy's still a walking meme. Like even Jeb had like the meme factor, even though a lot of it did come after he already like dropped out or whatever. But like DeSantis doesn't have a lot going for him the same way that somebody like Mitt Romney, who is like another robotic politician, didn't have a lot going for him in that factor. And again, you're another person that's called in that cited electability, not just for the primary, but the general, as the number one reason for why they support Donald Trump. And by and large, in a presidential election, that's a valid take, especially when you look at the whole picture, because people don't pay attention to midterm races as much. Obviously, things like money definitely play much of a greater role. But for presidential elections, it is about media coverage and things like that. And it's true. Everything you said is true. Regarding the whole electability argument, when you happen to come off as a politician that's going to be labeled as this like corrupt establishment Republican by the left in the general. But I thank you. I appreciate you for coming on. We are going to move on here, but I do appreciate it. So thank you. The real 1976 national champions. So up next, this one, I think we're going to know the answer to the first question, but this will be the number one reason why they support Donald Trump because the username is Trump2024Enjoyer. I believe the same Twitter handle. Is that not correct? Trump2024Enjoyer. You are the same one from Twitter.
Yes, I am. Thank you for bringing me on.
And how much is the Blumph campaign paying you? Is it like we see these people ask you this all the time on the Twitter timeline? They think you're some paid operative. Is this true that you're some paid operative like all these DeSantis people are, or are you just like a genuine account?
I don't know, man. I think like if they did, they probably wouldn't pay me as much as they pay guys like Max Nordau or Cryptic Politics.
Exactly, and it's true. And I know the answer because you've been in the Discord for, I believe, since before, I don't know, before 2020, but you've been in the community since way before the 2020 election even. Calendar year 2020, I should say. So you support Trump. What's the number one reason for your support? Are you another individual who thinks the number one reason is electability, or are you more in the whole camp of you just like what he has to say, what his policy is? And if it's more about policy, what would the number one policy that he's proposing right now be that you back him for?
Right. So I'll start off that I'm an independent, right? I'm not at home with either party. I'm more economically left and socially right than the average conservative. My biggest reason for supporting him would be that he's a once-in-a-generation kind of politician. Before him, the Republican Party was like this pseudo-libertarian bullcrap that, lost to Obama by he won 330-something electoral votes. And then after Trump came, he shattered that reputation of Democrats being the winning party all the time, right?
But what do you say to people, and I hate to cut you off, but just as like a quick follow-up, what do you have to say to the people that say, oh no, he's past his prime, he can't win, we need to move on, he's not that same politician, he's overstaying his welcome?
Well, I'll tell you what, recently Richard Barris, right? One of the most accurate pollsters in 2020.
Presidential years, and the people give him a lot of hate for the midterms, but in presidential years, he has been accurate both times for the most part.
Yes, and so far, just today, he released a poll out of Florida. Donald Trump is winning Florida by 18 points against Biden, DeSantis only by 10. He's overperforming him by 8 points in his own state and 30 points above Ron in the primary. So these guys who say oh, Trump lost to a senile old man, I don't get this because DeSantis is also losing to him even worse.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that poll's going to hold. 18 points in a national election in Florida. If it does, it does. I'd be more than happy about that. But I will say that, and nobody talks about this, but there were many primaries where Barris was accurate. Everyone will point at Georgia, but there were many primaries like Ohio, Pennsylvania, where his poll and Trafalgar polls and the polls that were off in the general for the midterms, they were accurate in the primaries compared to a lot of these establishment polls. And the fact is, how does DeSantis expect to win when he can't even win his home state in a primary that he just won the general by quite a bit, not even a year ago? I just don't see that. And this is something that is kind of glossed over, but he's going to need to win Florida. If he can't win Florida, he's not winning anything else besides maybe Utah and DC. And what other states do you think he possibly could even take in that? I don't even know. I
don't think DeSantis is going to win any state, man.
I don't either.
Yeah.
The DC young Republicans endorse Trump. Those are change of pace.
Yeah. And I'm thinking because DeSantis has been cratering in public polling against Biden, that at this point, if we were to elect DeSantis, it would not be a never back down campaign. It would be bend over backwards. That's what I think it would become. He would not be able to win. Trump is objectively, at this point, the more moderate, the more electable candidate. He brings out turnout that generic Republicans do not bring out. DeSantis does not have that aversity to scandal that Trump has. The moment that some random bimbo decides to accuse him of rape or something, he's going to crater 30 points. He won't recover from that like Trump can because he does not have the ability to sway an audience.
Yeah, and it's pretty obvious. Trump can just laugh it off in a way where people are going to know it's bogus. But if DeSantis is going to be going up there awkward, I did not do that, it's like, yeah, I mean, like, we know what they're going to do. I mean, Biden's had allegations. I mean, his might be a little bit more accurate because we know he's a little more handsy, but like, we see this with every politician that's like a threat to the system. There's going to be some allegation thrown in there, whether if it is a sexual abuse, assault allegation or whatever. How's he going to navigate that when he's just so robotic and like doesn't handle these things properly? I really don't know. But
yeah, he's not going.
I will say that this will be the last thing I bring up in this call. At what point do you think, because you're tapped into this from what I can tell, at least in terms of the Twitter game the way I am, at what point do you think that the donors, even some of the more neocon donors, are going to start to back out? Because even though they want DeSantis over Trump, they want to get rid of Trump, but at the same time, they don't want to throw, like, money's king at the end of the day. They don't want to throw their money at something that they know is not going anywhere. Like, is that why Pence is jumping in the race? Because they know that DeSantis is such a dumpster fire? Or what do you think the donors are going to do? Because they're the ones throwing money at this guy.
I think they have an ulterior motive. The only thing that this primary is accomplishing is wasting more money on a primary that could be spent on a general.
There you go.
I think that they're getting effectively psyoped so that we have no money left. So Trump is going to be bombarded with both a competitive primary and legal fees going against Biden.
Yeah, because they don't want to win the general. The donor class will not want to win the general if Trump's the nominee. They might want to retake the Senate or do the down ballot stuff, but they want to get rid of Trump first and foremost because they want to return to the days of old. But the days of old are not coming back, and these people are unwilling to adapt because, as you said, ulterior motive. Those are two very key and important words here. But thanks for coming on, Trump 2024 enjoyer.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. So let's see. Any more super chats? Feel free to send super chats if you guys would like. We still like to get some chat in the mix. Not everybody can call in. I get that. But they still want to support the channel. They can send a super chat. Bruce Rice sent a member chat. Do you know FISA abuse resulted in election interference? It depends what you mean by the FISA abuse, but I will say there's so many examples of the FBI with the Twitter files and everything, to the point where you don't even need to get involved in the whole ballot game to talk about the problems with our election system, because they are real and they exist. And you saw that with social media. You see that with dark money. Who's the dark money backing right now? DeSantis. And it's like, even though Twitter is owned by Elon Musk now, like, and he's like supposedly like center right, he's still more on the side of DeSantis. Could he be even potentially getting involved in the primary and working to promote certain things? Because we know that Elon doesn't, like, he is kind of more of like a hands-on CEO. And even though he has been more hands-off regarding some of like the free speech stuff, the pronouns, whatever, he's also been hands-on with his selective bans of people that he just doesn't like. And as we get closer, as the primary season kind of comes to a close, could we see him start to put his foot down if he's invested in this fight and start censoring or deboosting pro-Trump posts and boosting pro-DeSantis posts? It's possible, guys. It's possible. Nick H says DeSantis' 2-point gains in Chester won't make up for his 6-point losses in Lackawanna. And that is another good point that's made, because the rural areas are so red in Pennsylvania. They say they're maxed out. They're not maxed out. They're closer to it than like Wisconsin, but they're pretty solidly Republican. And what is true is the fact that you have a lot of voters there who didn't turn out in 2022, partially because there was no money to fund the gubernatorial campaign, and when it came to Oz, they weren't sold on Oz. Now, when it comes down to the whole turnout game, you could gain 5 points in Chester. You're still losing if you're bombing in the Pittsburgh suburbs, which happen to be more white working class. But no, suburbs are all like these suburban women who care about muff feelings, but happen to be somewhat like right-wing economically. No, that's not how these things work. They don't get it. They never have, and in many cases, they never will. We have more super chats. Bruce Rice for 10 says, Rampart 51, call Elizabeth. I think this is the big one. Thanks for the super chat. Jormungandr says, the Candace Owens call, it's in full tandem, pulling virtue signaling scam with Kaylee nonsense, trying to cancel Trump like Crowder. I don't really know what's going on with the whole Candace Owens and Trump thing, but there's no reason to cancel Trump. Like, he's attacking somebody who's been a little critical of him lately. That's what he does. Like I said, there are bigger fish to fry. If I was him, would have I posted that on Truth? Probably not. But it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Trump does a lot of things that are going to be forgotten about in like a week. Even though he's been less active, they're going to be forgotten about in a week. So it's like, yeah, he's going to do everything he can to gaslight some people on DeSantis being like worse than he really is. Okay, I don't care. I want Trump to win the primary by as much as possible. Let him go out there and do that. If I honestly don't think the whole like taking the New York COVID strategy is good at all. But, you know, if he's doing it, it's not like I care enough about it to really have it move the needle for me. It's ironic because Trump supporters were the ones at the time critiquing Trump a little bit and also leading the fight, you know, against the whole lockdown skepticism thing. But now DeSantis has tried to make him the face of, despite DeSantis initially locking down. Oh, but DeSantis changed his mind. Oh, but Trump can't change his. Like, why does that exactly make a difference? He wasn't even the first governor to reopen, like Brian Kemp was. And yeah, Trump attacked him. And should he have attacked him in retrospect? Probably not. But if Trump was based on COVID, did everything he should have done, he would have likely gotten completely decimated in 2020, probably wouldn't have even won the state of Texas and done irreparable damage to the Republican Party electorally. And that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people because it's easy to sit back here and play Monday morning quarterback, but look at the time. Now, I agree, we should have not locked down, especially nearly as long as we did. Mask mandates were something that should not have taken place at all, honestly, in my view. And I think that the science has now vindicated the skepticist side of things regarding COVID. But at the end of the day, it's like, why exactly is this the main issue for so many people for 2024 when we're likely not going to be dealing with another pandemic? And now Trump will have enough pressure on him to do the right thing during a pandemic because he's stopped shilling the jab when he got booed at crowds. And nobody talks about that. But Ron DeSantis shilled it 1,600 times in public appearances, and they won't even look at that. So I don't know, guys. It is what it is. The only reason why Trump defended it for so long is because he just doubles down more than he has to. And even then, every other Republican politician was going out there saying the same things, including Ron DeSantis, but he doesn't exactly get any blame for anything. Oh, he's perfect. He's the golden boy for some reason with these people. Based Cato sent a member chat. Member for 33 months. That is a very long time. It's almost 3 years. I didn't even know we had memberships that long. Thoughts on all these woke corporations, backlashes, even Target's backtracking on the groomer stances probably comes before the fall. Yeah, I have a friend who works at a Target in Florida. I'm not going to say who, but he confirmed to me that they did have to drag down all the woke stuff, and it is working. The boycotts to a large degree are working. And I think it's a very good thing that they are. Now, I think that legislation should still be intact. I think we need legislation that will kind of have safeguards so companies are not allowed to engage in nearly as much political speech as they do. And we can be careful about how we navigate that so we can actually get it through and have it be realistic and effective. But nonetheless, I do believe that it is a good thing that you see the downfall. And I don't know, I guess Bud Light was the breaking point, and now they've made an example out of Bud Light to the point where all these other corporations are like, okay, maybe we can't be woke and like not go broke anymore. I don't know. But it's a good thing that we're making them cave, not the other way around. Jonathan Williams says, consider doing a video on the college Title IX investigation reforms Trump implemented. False accusations are extremely dangerous to a student's career. They are. There's like no proof of certain things that ruin so many people's lives, and it's a disaster. It really is. And you didn't have this, 20, 30 years ago, but it is a new phenomenon, and definitely with the rise of feminism and new heights that it's never even reached before, it's getting worse and worse and worse. And it's obviously was more of a problem 5 to 10 years ago than it is now. And we're kind of seeing this like more, masculinity type of resurgence on not just the right, but in terms of like popular media as well. But we'll see what happens in the long run. It's still not a battle we've really won. But yeah, Trump definitely is somebody that's been accused of false allegations, even though it somehow held up in a kangaroo court. And he's somebody who has been actively, willing to push back against that. So it does surprise me that he's made those reforms, even though they're not really talked about enough. Let's see. Who do we go to next? Who do we go to? I want to take 3 more. And if I miss the caller, just DM me. We'll prioritize the next stream. Mewtwo. We'll go to Mewtwo. I've never seen this, or I've never talked to this guy before on a stream or in general, I believe. But Mewtwo, you are on the air. How's it going? You there?
Yeah. I'm here.
So we're asking everybody this question. I'm sure you know. Who do they support in the primary, Trump or DeSantis? But also, what's the reason? What's the reason behind your support? What's your number one reason? Is it electability? Is it policy, a certain policy, a vision? Like, what's your take?
Well, despite my criticisms at the moment, it's Trump. The last few weeks, honestly, have made it a bit hard at times, but I'm still generally for Trump, but I am open to DeSantis. But at this moment, I am for Trump, and one of the simplest reasons is just, he has experience as a president. The only other time that there's been non-consecutive presidents was Cleveland, like 1880 or something. So at the end of the day, I'll just take experience over anything else. But I'm not like 100% set on Trump, to be honest.
And what I'm sure we could discuss all day your grievances, but I'll just for time constraints, I'll say this: what's your number one criticism of Trump that's kind of keeping you open to Ron DeSantis, and what is that?
Well, for the most part, it's just at his times his attitude of flip-flopping, and even though it doesn't bother me all that much of him attacking DeSantis, it bothered me a little bit, not enough to really sway my my personal support. But I've seen plenty of people who have said, I'm going to support DeSantis now because of the way Trump's been acting towards DeSantis. And I think at a point he does go too far.
What's an example that you'd like to highlight of Trump going too far? Is it the New York, Florida comparison? Is it the Disney stuff? What's your main grievance?
I mean, I would say pretty much all of that, all of what he has said in his what was that? His truth from a couple weeks ago. And even though, and yeah, I have my problems with it. Like I said, it's not a deal breaker for me, but I understand why people would want to move away from Trump, because to be frank, it at times makes it look like he has no principles. Like he'll criticize DeSantis for having too many deaths and praising Cuomo, implying was he not do enough, and in terms of lockdowns. And I just think Trump needs to be more, focused on like specific things with DeSantis. I know you'll point out, well, DeSantis, it's been hypocritical and is criticizing whatever, but that stuff, what DeSantis is very careful of what he criticizes Trump for. And that's why, and plus at the end of the day, I guarantee 99% of DeSantis voters would support Trump. And I feel on paper
that is true. I will agree with that. Actually, I think that Twitter is not real life all the time. But go on. I'll let you finish real quickly here.
Yeah, just my main point is that I think Trump needs to, I guess, finesse a little, because I don't think this is as comparable to Ted Cruz or even Jeb Bush as, it's kind of made out to be. Like, I think DeSantis is more, at the very least, respected. I'd argue he has way more accomplishments that people at least know of. And it's just his political stock, I would say, is easily the second highest behind Trump, easily, obviously. And just I think some of Trump's rhetoric should be at least toned back when dealing with DeSantis, because I know for a fact that it can be a turnoff for a lot of people in primaries. And I know polls at the moment show whatever, but
I mean, I was gonna say, like, even though you say that Trump still gains in the polls, DeSantis craters in the polls. I think a lot of that is also because more people are getting acquainted with DeSantis, and he does kind of rub them the wrong way as a presidential candidate. But we'll be moving on here. Thanks for calling in, by the way. You were the only one to sort of express a little bit of dissent with that, with the whole Trump thing. So, okay, he left the call. Let's see, any more super chats? I don't believe we have any more super chats. Actually, wait, no, we got to them all. But if you guys want to send any more in, we can. Let's see. All right. We'll do two more calls. We'll go to Violet Army 321. Are you there? Are you there?
Hello. Testing.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, there we go. So I'm sure you know the question by now, but Trump or DeSantis? Also, what's your main reasoning for it? Is it electability, certain policy, a certain personal gripe with one or the other? But what's your take?
Well, first of all, I would just like to say real quick, thank you for having me on. I really do appreciate that.
No problem.
And I am in favor of, I support Donald J. Trump for president. And why is that? Because he's going to put America first, all right? He has the receipts, he has the record. And, you look at DeSantis's record, it's not too great. He has a very murky voting record in Congress. He supported free trade. I, as someone who's from Pennsylvania, I've seen what that has done, what globalism, what outsourcing the jobs has done to our country, and it's a very horrible thing. And I support Trump for that reason. He's going to put an end to that. He's great on foreign policy, like a lot of the other people were saying, and he's good on the social issues too. Like before Trump appointed those judges to the Supreme Court, the pro-life side had like no bargaining power. So
exactly,
people say
he
on those
said
issues,
that
but
verbatim, and I think it was a great thing he said. And it's largely true. What do you have to say? Because you talk about Trump's record. I tout parts of Trump's record. I think he did an overall very good job at times, especially when it came to trade, renegotiating some trade deals. Foreign policy had everything stacked up against him, didn't start any new wars, worked to end conflicts, getting us out of wars, even though, we were going to completely get out of Afghanistan. Biden completely dropped the ball on how, but foreign policy, just standing up for our country, negotiating with other nations, that's great. They will highlight on the other side, but Trump failed with the COVID and the riots and all this stuff, which, again, there may be some criticisms that are legitimate here and there, but what do you have to say to those people that say, well, Trump's record's not that good. DeSantis is the strong man who's making Florida this epic red state that's going to rival California in population and be like R+20.
Okay, so to those people, I'd say, that's ludicrous, personally, I think, because, you look at, the simps, as we call them, they like to use COVID as an example, and you look at it, and it's like Trump and DeSantis are basically identical on that issue.
Yes.
They both, made the same mistakes,
Yes.
They both are at least trying to appear on the anti, COVID BS side, and it's like, I mean, you just look at it, like, under Trump, we had the lowest unemployment before COVID. We had, like you were saying with the foreign policy, no new wars, ending a lot of those wars, trying to get us out, and the swamp creatures, the neocons, wouldn't let us do that.
They lied about the troop counts. Can't let them get away with that.
And, I mean, obviously Trump did make his mistakes. Like, he did do a lot of pandering, a lot of shilling for certain groups he didn't necessarily need to be shilling for, but I think he's learned. I think he's going to probably win in 2024 because I think he's learned from his mistakes and he's going to do better. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and so many people will say, well, Trump's got too big of an ego to learn from his mistakes. I disagree. He's got a big ego. I think that's arguably one of his strengths when it comes down to certain things. But at the same time, he does learn. He's not going to tell you he's learned. He'll show you he's learned, and then he's not going to go back and exactly grovel and apologize. That's not going to make you look strong either, and makes you look weak. And Trump is always somebody that's been this guy who tries to have this appearance as being somebody who's strong and doesn't want to grovel to the people that hate him for whatever reason. That doesn't mean he's not going to learn from his mistakes, because I think when it comes down to that, the whole messaging thing, he has learned. I haven't heard radical socialists nearly as much. I haven't heard the Platinum Plan. We need another First Step Act. All these other things that do not help Republicans with anybody. That's a good sign. And it kind of leads me to believe that, yes, a second Trump term will be far more productive and based, so to speak, than the first one was. The first one was good overall. There were, like I said, bumps in the road, but it's true. And thank you for calling on. I appreciate it. But we will go to our last caller right now. So thank you. And
thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good day. All right. Let's see. Any more chats that we have to read? I don't believe so. We still have 400 live viewers, which I think is a very good thing given the fact that it's like 1 a.m. on the East Coast, and we still have like 85% of our peak, which is awesome. And we're going to be doing these more. I don't know if we're going to be doing calling streams once a week, once every other week, or maybe we're going to be doing them on Thursdays. I know it's Wednesday, but I wanted to do an end of the month stream for you guys. Jonathan Williams says there are higher powers directing these companies to push leftist agendas. BlackRock, Vanguard are major owners, or Target and others. Yeah, this corporate structure is designed to the fact where they're not going to lose profit. In fact, they'll only gain. Now, it's interesting because of what we see with the Bud Light stuff. And Anheuser-Busch was the target. It wasn't Bud Light. Because, we won't drink Bud Light. We'll just have Budweiser instead. It's the same company. But they targeted the parent company for this, who was behind it. And then they're the ones seeing losses. And I'm sure that people drink like other drinks that are owned by the company at like higher rates. But it's true. Like, you go to anywhere, like, you'll see the fact that the Bud Lights are everywhere. Like, they can't get rid of them. They can't pay people to take Bud Light off their hands. And I was at the conference finals game for the Knights, Golden Knights, my Golden Knights in Dallas playing the Stars. We won. We went to the Stanley Cup. But you look at the concession stand there in Dallas. It was, they sold 2 beers or 3 beers, and I think one of them was Modelo. The Modelos were pretty much empty. The other beers were like the Bud Light and the Budweiser. Nobody bought them. And some people will say, but they're owned by a similar parent company. But like, technically, Anheuser-Busch in America does not own Modelo. I think they do in other countries. So apparently not. So people are taking note. I will say that. Everywhere you go, you will see this phenomenon hold up, and it's true. The Lego man says the biggest issue with DeSantis is that now he's not between Trump and DeSantis, he's between Trump and his revenge. That's true. It's very true. And this is a common theme. Donald Trump is a very vengeful person. The caller that called in that talked about the whole, like, Trump is attacking DeSantis too harshly. Like, some of the attacks, I agree, may not be the best lines of attack. But at the end of the day, he is vengeful. He's going to go out there and just go ham. And he'll do the same thing on Biden, I'm sure, in the general. And he's going to be unleashed. They're not going to censor his tweets this time around. They're not going to go out there and try to take him down, because he has the mandate. If they he's been proven innocent even by these people. They've authenticated or admitted everything was true about Hunter, the laptop, the daughter's diary. you name it, all this crazy, disgusting stuff that Biden and his close acolytes and his family have been getting involved in. So let's see. All right, last caller. Let's see. And I know there's some people we're not going to get to. I know. I apologize. Just shoot me a DM. We'll work something out. Next stream, you get priority. Maybe, because we are going to be doing another one of these. And I did it by the end of the month. We set the goal, and we achieved it. And we're going to hopefully do even more videos and streams and call-in streams this month. But we've had a lot of callers, some that I've never talked to before, that have said a lot of interesting and insightful things that honestly I would not have expected that to be the first line of defense for Donald Trump was his electability. And that's mostly what we heard tonight. The first thing was he's a leader. He did well. No, it wasn't perfect, but he's also electable. And DeSantis's electability is being overrated because that's the one main thing that we hear from the DeSantis camp. And it's good to hear other people in agreement with this point, because it wasn't even my main takeaway from this show. But like I said, it does come down to, can you run a campaign competently, more so than even, what's your policy position? Because Donald Trump's policy positions are pretty much grounded in reality. The personal stuff bounces off like it's like a bouncy ball at this point, that in like a zero gravity area, because nobody cares about that anymore. Yeah, you have 45% of the country that's not going to vote for Trump under any circumstances. Okay. They're also likely not going to vote for Ron DeSantis, and Democrat turnout energy doesn't matter as much with their turnout apparatus, because they're going to get good turnout no matter what. It is indeed a base election, especially in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. You can't turn out the base, you can't win. Doesn't matter what happened in the midterms at all. Midterm years are harder to predict. So, let's see. All right. I don't know. Let's see. We're going to go to an old moderator. Sometimes he butt heads a little bit. But nonetheless, a good friend and supporter of the show. We're going to go to the infamous Lalo. He will be our last caller. Lalo, you are on the air. How's it going, man?
Hello, it's nice to see you again, Red Eagle Politics. I gotta say that you run an amazing stream. I've been seeing the community flourish. We've been seeing commentary that has been thoughtful and provocative. To think that we are using electability as a vector of defense for Donald Trump is just utterly astounding, and it's amazing and white-pilling to watch. We go on the Twitter timeline, and we are reply guys for Red Eagle Politics. We defend him, and we see these same couple dozen people, these Rep A-logs, seething, trying to destroy Rep's credibility, saying that, he was wrong about the midterms, which it really wasn't that wrong in retrospect. But we see these people again and again malign you over the fact that, DeSatan is more electable, which makes no sense. The guy does a rally today. He gets mogged by his own wife in terms of charisma. The guy cannot fight his way out of a wet paper bag. The fact is that at least Jeb was uncharismatic, but kind of funny in the way that he was so bad. He has the wrong characteristics. He's off-putting, just like Ted Cruz. He wears heels that are twice as big as little Marco Rubio's heels, by the way. And so he just generally has nothing going on for him. And so now we're looking at somebody who's most likely than not going to be utterly felted and destroyed in the primary in 2024. But I do support DeSantis running. Why? Because he's going to make Trump run to the right. He's going to make Donald Trump playoff Trump. That sort of 2016 energy.
Yeah, playoff Trump.
Playoff Trump. Golden Knights energy.
It's true. Also, on that point, people will say these are ad hominem attacks when you say you're short. But in reality, if you talk about the electability argument, you need to be presentable. And if you're going to be 5'7", wearing like 2-inch heels, they look like women's shoes. I mean, what man wears high heels? You just don't do that. And the guy is like 5'7", like, and I don't think people should attack his family or anything, but I will say, if your wife is taller than you by 2 inches, it's just not a good look, man. It's not. And like, if this guy was born after 1994, he would not make it. like he's
It
awkward.
would have been over for him.
Yeah, it would have been over. It would not stand a chance in not
if you're
just
going to be
politics
short,
or
you're going
anything.
to have to be handsome and charismatic, and so he doesn't fulfill two of those prerequisites.
Rubio, like, say what you will about him, he has charisma. Some may say it's forced or that he can be like repetitive, robotic at times. Like, yeah, he is still a politician, but he can fake charisma. He can, people can say, oh, he's not a bad looking guy. It is what it is. And this stuff does matter in politics. You have to look presentable. DeSantis, like, being a governor is one thing when you're backed by a lot of money. You're backed by Donald Trump. He saves your campaign, and then you have a competent state party in there so you could win by like 20. But yeah, he's going to get absolutely mogged on the debate stage. And like, hypothetically, people are like, he should pick Youngkin for VP or whatever. Youngkin's like 6'9". So let's say that DeSantis gets the nomination in some alternative reality or somehow everything goes right. He picks Youngkin as his VP. If your VP's like a foot taller than you, is that even a good look? You're like the child out there. It looks like you're a puppet being ran by the strings. And it does matter. Women care a lot about height. In politics, it absolutely does matter, and it might not
and
matter.
We have a commenter right here saying that, oh, Trump is now handsome, lol. But that's not what we're saying. We're saying that Donald Trump doesn't need to do that.
If it's an aesthetic, though, he's old,
ruggedly
but
handsome. Yeah, real.
In a way, like he's got the golden mane, whatever.
He's a fugly cat. I love Donald Trump. 6'3",
he's orange,
230 pounds.
It
destroyed DeSantis,
and he's lost weight. He looks better. He seems healthier than he was during his campaign and candidacy. So, all right, I'm gonna end the call taking section. We're gonna end the stream pretty shortly, but thank you for coming on. Thank you, Lalo. Thank you, everybody. And for those who I didn't get to, next stream we'll do it for sure, and there will be another call-in stream. Just DM me, get your spot in line. So,
Red Eagle Politics Gang for life. Let's go.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay. All right, guys. Well, any last call for super chats? We'll get to them. Jonathan Williams says it's June. Get ready to be blasted by the propaganda. We'll see. We'll see if the pushback has any impact on the corporate wokeness, because if it doesn't, become as egregious or woke as last year, like, that's still a win. You're going to see the gay stuff. You're going to see the alphabet stuff all around. You will see that. However, even if it's done at 60% capacity of last year, that's still a win. But we just got to keep fighting. We'll take the incremental wins, but we have to stack them up. We can't get complacent. That's where the right's gone wrong for so long over the past 60 years. They might get a win here and there, but they don't take it and then add to it. And because of that, they keep losing. They keep ceding ground. And that's a problem. So, all right, last call for super chats. We'll end the stream in about a minute. Regardless, I know we've gotten quite a bit already, so it is what it is. 325 people in chat. Like the stream before you go. If you are dipping, this is their first stream on OBS in over, I think, around 2 years. So it did go pretty smoothly for the most part. I will say, and that's a very good thing. I know the audio in this room is a little bit more echoey than the studio, which is the soundproof pads, but we'll work on that. I think it was a pretty successful call-in stream, and hopefully we'll do more of them. Join the Discord, by the way. It's $5 a month to join the website, but it's not like you just get the Discord and nothing else. You get you get a full catalog of rep videos that just never make it to the main channel. So make sure you join the website as well. Anthony Williams says, if the left is successful in locking up Trump, will it stop him in 24? I don't think they're going to be successful, but I don't know. That's interesting. That is interesting. If they actually lock him up, then the race could have some changed effects. But they have had legal scholars that have come forward and say Trump could actually win the presidency and govern from behind bars. Now, I don't know if that's viable, if that's going to win him the election. I don't think they're going to lock him up. But it's will it stop him? I don't think it will stop him from trying. I don't. Trump doesn't get into things to lose them. They say he's grifting, but he could have just done media appearances day one, just, conceded to Brandon, in November of 2020 and then like went out there and just tried to rectify his media standing and get back into business, and probably he would have found a way to make a decent amount of money, but he stood by what he believes to be accurate and by what he believes to be right. And he thinks that he can run and win and save this country, or help at least play an important pivotal role in saving our country. I think that's the number one argument in favor of Trump. He didn't gain money during his presidency. He lost a lot. He's losing a lot of friends. He's losing a lot of people. He's getting indicted over nonsense. He's getting tried in cases that should not be cases at all. And he doesn't have to be doing this. He didn't have to be doing this in the first place. If you're talking about grifting or who's grifting, it would probably be the guy who's taking the establishment's bait of hundreds of millions of dollars to like get 25% in Iowa and divide the party. That's what it comes down to. They're funding a ship that's going nowhere, and it's a disaster. Jonathan Williams, this may be the last super chat of the night, says, proud to be in the 6 foot gang. Height matters. I mean, yeah, I'm right there. 6'0", roughly, in those whereabouts, and it does play a role. And there are short kings out there, but you gotta make up for it, as I believe it was Lalo that called in and said, that you're gonna have to make up for it in charisma. You're gonna have to make up for it in other means. And DeSantis doesn't have any of that, and he's gonna get clowned on. And you could be the best governor in the world, but if you're just running to divide the party and just try to go out there and undermine the chances of Republicans winning the next election and not having a clear path forward. And yeah, you're going to get clowned on. I don't care how, obviously, if he was actually having good intentions and was like the best governor possible, then maybe it'd be a different story. But yeah, not really. What can I say? But yeah, Obama's tall. I don't know how tall Biden is. But Biden is an interesting case. Biden height. How tall is Biden? He's 6 feet. He's 6 feet. So there you go. Like I said, these other elections besides presidential elections, they're also different ball games. And I made the mistake of not taking everything into consideration in 2022. And partially that's the polls didn't either. But, it's not like I haven't learned from my mistakes. They haven't learned from any of theirs. And that's why they're doing this. And it's laughable. So we're going to end the stream. Like it, subscribe, hit the bell. I'll see you guys in the next one. Video tomorrow. I think we're going to be doing a prediction for the general. Red Eagle out.